Doing the
That would
circle thing.
actually,
There we
yeah, that we
go.
would actually be live.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Frank Analysis. I'm joined by at Slow News Day Show, aka
Correct.
Steve Poikonen, and Water Tribe, aka Glory Jones. Thank you guys so much for
You
being
gotta
on.
say it like how Sokka says it.
How does he say it?
Water
Oh yeah. Oh, you guys sure you don't want to do it like this? What's wrong with this? This is like old school, like when I would watch Steve back in like 2019 when he would be on those old shows.
on those panels with
Yeah.
fucking what's his face.
Oh, with Marcus and fucking
No, not even
Niall?
Niall,
Niall, him.
The Niall Alcom.
that crazy motherfucker, dude. The Marcus is the only person from that group that like hasn't blocked me or threatened me with bodily harm, and in fact,
What the
hugs me
heck?
when we see each other. So I feel like I won out in all of that.
Why did this guy really threaten you?
Oh yeah.
And say I haven't heard anything about this guy.
No,
I
it
did.
doesn't even fucking matter, dude. The fucking
You're
scrub, who
not
cares?
missing anything.
Yeah, I do remember. What's his name? Yellow Vest being on one of those panels. That Steve got kicked out like it was a bar. Or something. What was up with that?
It was the day that Tulsi dropped out of the race. That's what day it was. And they wanted to do like a victory lap or something like that. And they wanted to specifically punch her for endorsing Biden. And I don't know why I got asked to be on that panel. I don't. I have no idea why. But I was like, oh, you guys have no idea. You want an emotional shit show and you're going to have one, but it's not going to be the way that you want it to work out. Yeah, I'll take that invite. Sure. And so incredibly emotionally and angrily, like, how do you feel? Tulsi Gabbard endorsed Joe Biden. And I'm like, how do I feel that a Democratic politician followed the terms of the contract she signed before she was allowed to run in that party?
Predictable.
I think that's what I think that's what all of the politicians that are running for president were going to do. And they just kind of like both lost their shit and proceeded to, and it was, kind of a comedy of errors until I laughed in Niall's face about something, and that's when he kicked me out.
Oh no.
I think he was going like these protests won't go anywhere, Steve. And then it's like you're putting. He made some analogy. It was like, oh, like the air is coming out. Like you try to put your hand on it, then the air is gonna come out on another hole, and you're gonna have to cover that. But you only have two hands. Something crazy like that. But I mean, what else can you do? We're not gonna solve our issues through electoral politics. We gotta have to do, in addition to protests, also some parallel societies, mutual aid, opting out of the system, as you guys say, right?
Well, the biggest advertisement for opting out of the state is a cursory examination of the status quo. And the state each and every day does a way better job than I ever could of showcasing how delegitimized it is. It's just that there's still a lot of people who haven't connected the fact that it's not replacing individual parts on the machine or slapping a couple of shiny new pieces onto the machine every year that is what is going to fix a machine designed to kill you. It's not using that machine anymore.
I want to get into this later when we talk about RFK Jr., because I did bring that up a little bit before the show, and I talked about that yesterday with Fee and Pasta. But I am seeing some people that are going like RFK Jr. 2024. The way that we're seeing how he responded to his critics, I don't see it going anywhere, guys. And if he truly is a threat, it's going to be a miracle if he wins. but we can get into that later. I want to start out talking about Julian Assange since I have both of you guys here. Julian Assange activists. So on January 24th, 2022, the High Court in Old Bailey, London, allowed Julian Assange to appeal to the Supreme Court. So the original decision was no extradition to the U.S. You know, we were out there chanting, what was that decision? No extradition in D.C. in January. The reason for this was because of the U.S. prison system's harsh conditions and Julian's high likelihood of dying quickly in prison. The U.S. then appealed this and claimed that they would take good care of Julian in prison. The U.S. won their appeal after the U.S. Old Bailey High Court was convinced of their claims and promises that they would take care of Julian. The Supreme Court's role in all this is to see if it was okay for the U.S. to give these assurances and promises after they had already lost their court case to extradite Julian. So Julian won the extradition case in early January 2021, and only after a month in February did the U.S. start making assurances. Some of these assurances included that they won't put Julian in SAMS, which is a prison sentence in the form of extreme torture, that they will let him serve his sentence in Australia, that he will not go to ADX Florence. So, you know, a bunch of empty promises. So pretty much the Supreme Court is making sure if it's okay for the U.S. to give assurances after the High Court already looked at evidence and heard testimonies from several witnesses and already made the decision to not extradite Julian to the U.S. based on all that evidence. Now, guys, when will the Supreme Court make this decision? I can assume that it may take some months, but what do you make of all this?
So quickly, the one thing that nobody seems to be pointing out is that the U.S. assurances assume conviction, and all of them have to do with Julian's supposed treatment post-conviction. There's nothing in the quote-unquote assurances that talk about the Alexandria Detention Center or the pretrial detention that he'll have there and the administrative segregation that they can put him in there, because they don't call it special administrative measures. They call it ADSEG. And they have a couple other different acronyms for above and beyond conventional solitary confinement, things that amount to torture no matter how you look at it. So the assurances aren't worth a damn thing, because the extradition was denied on the fact that if, not when, if Julian's extradition is allowed to go forward, that's when he is most apt to take his own life. In all certainty, when he sets feet on U.S. soil, yeah, but prior to, easier the better.
Mm-hmm. Water Tribe. What do you make of this?
Well, yeah, pretty much what Steve said. That's something that doesn't get brought up a lot. Also, with regards to the assurances as well, just having an understanding of how the U.S. justice system operates, there's many ways to punish him outside of what the assurances would be claiming that they're avoiding. And then with regards to the decision to allow Julian's legal team to appeal to the UK Supreme Court on Monday, as an activist, I don't really feel like it changes much of what we have to keep doing. And that's kind of the mentality that I went at it with, especially considering at this point, the only right decision that can be made is for Julian to be released and for him to be walking free tomorrow. Now, in the meantime, I guess it does kind of at least allow us to breathe a small sigh of relief in that he's not being immediately extradited, in that he's not going to the US where his life will be immediately in danger. But in the meantime, he's still, risk of stroke number 3 in Belmarsh and currently being tortured there as well. So kind of coming at it from an activist standpoint, it doesn't necessarily change what we have to do. It just kind of means that we sort of had to like ramp it up. So, yeah.
I get the sense that this whole issue became about legal technicalities here. What we're talking about, oh, well, technically, like the U.S. made these assurances after, but isn't this whole thing about, right?
No,
isn't this should be about press freedom?
Yeah, press freedom, free speech, the right to share and publish information, the right to protect your sources, that right to confidentiality in that regard, that shouldn't be up for all this technical legal debate. It shouldn't be up for these crooked justice systems to legislate. None of these people have any right really to be legislating away our rights to be gaining international jurisdiction over the press when they fumbled it on so many occasions and when they're literally tied to the people that Julian himself exposed. So not only are they already cunts in that regard, but they also have no right to be the ones that are legislating this. And like that's honestly when Steve brought up his point, like one of the things that came to my mind is like, why doesn't that get brought up in court? I wonder. But like, yeah, I mean, because it just, ugh.
I am not a legal scholar. I have by no means an expert, and if I can spot that the day that it's being handed down, along with a number of other people that have followed this case, at least as closely as we have, if not closer, can spot that day of, it is concerning that it's not part of every single report on Julian Assange. It really is. It's weird. I don't understand the legal strategy. I don't understand the British legal system well enough to know why they were only allowed to argue this one minute point. I know that there were avenues available to them to where they could question the entirety of the legal side of Barater's ruling. What I would do is kick it back to the district court. What this is probably going to do is kick it back to the district court. The process is the punishment. The Stratfor email that said keep him moving from place to place for 25 years, seize assets, go after his family, all that's happening. Ray McGovern pointed out that moving from place to place, or keep him moving from place to place, you keep him moving from court venue to court venue, but he's off the table entirely. It's even better.
So he's been suffering this entire time. How many years has it been since he's been tortured in Belmarsh, right? Almost 3 years or more than that.
3 years come April 11th.
April 11th will be 3 years, yeah.
And there's been numerous doctors from across the world that have signed a letter about how he needs to be freed. That was over 2 years ago, I think, at this point. They're killing him slowly, pretty much. Do you think, at the rate that this is all going, the way how they keep kicking the can down the road, do you guys think that he will ever be freed?
I don't know, man. I don't know. And here's what I do know. It took 27 years of imprisonment for enough of the Western world to get behind getting rid of the South African government that has imprisoned Nelson Mandela. It took hunger strikes and 15, 20 years for Gandhi to become effective enough to where the international community had to stop looking the other way about what the UK was doing in India. You don't get moments for political prisoners up and off the ground in a couple of years. Not to the effect that you need when a superpower is doing some seriously brutal shit in broad daylight. Like, but okay, so on the one hand, that's a fact. On the other hand, this is a 10-year struggle so far.
It's a 10-year struggle. Unlike the movements of Mandela and Gandhi, we do have the internet and social media. And on top of that, I do think to the recent, I forgot his name, the recent release of Palestinian political prisoner Abu Hawash. Granted, it took him a 141-day hunger strike to do it, but a Palestinian was effectively released from an Israeli prison, and a Palestinian political activist. And while that might not be on the same scale as Julian's case in terms of using it to try and gain international jurisdiction over journalism, it does kind of paint give me I'll just say it flat out, give me a little bit of hope to know that at least some prisoners can be released. Because on the other hand, you also have Rochelle McGee, who's been in LA in prison for 58 years. You also have Mumia, who's been in prison for I don't even know how many years, surely longer than Steve's been
35.
alive, I think. Yeah.
35 years.
Sorry, not that long.
No, it's cool. 37 years. I think it was 85.
Yeah. I thought it was 40 for some reason, but yeah.
Getting there. But because the move bombing was 85.
Yeah. Okay.
So it might have been 87 and it might be 35 years. I honestly can't remember off the top of my head. Peltier is still locked up. There's a number. I didn't even get to the Olabini court appearance on the show yet this week. We'll probably have to do a morning show on Friday just to get in the Olabini thing. I need 3 hours in the morning for that. Pasta and I are cooking something up.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Oh, Steve and Pasta are cooking something up, fam.
And what's going on, Marcus Cage? It's great to have you here. It's great to have Independent
Marcus.
Left News. Ivan Cuevas is saying Bernie's doing a stream right now, and there's only 900 people watching. For somebody that's that big of a personality, that's been able to bring in millions of people to rallies and stuff. I mean, that just goes to show you he's not
for
fighting.
Masks for all.
Right. Well, I do think going back to the Assange
situation, chicken cube in every pot.
Oh my God.
With a mask.
However many years it will take to get him freed, it does. We're still going to be out there protesting for him like we were in DC. We're still going to be informing people about what's going on.
Absolutely.
So what can people do right now? I always ask this when I have you guys on. What can people do to help? Because I know you guys are involved in the activist realm of this.
Donate to the legal funds, support the activists that are already on the ground. Become an activist yourself on the ground if that's something that you're like physically capable of, mentally capable of. It's a lot. It's not for everybody. Ain't nobody mad at you if that's not you. Make that perfectly clear. Lots of other ways to help too. You can always share as much of the content as possible. Talk to people about this. Make the connection that each and every individual person has a selfish interest in Julian Assange's freedom. No matter what it is that you care about, that depends on a free press. That depends on, especially if it's a cause or an issue, it depends on that organization's group, or that organization's ability to get their message out to people who don't already know it, who don't know enough about it, who need to be educated on it and moved into, supporting this particular issue. That goes away with Julian Assange. You own, as much as you think you only get state narratives now, when there's quite literally no free press, we have an algorithm, bubble of censorship. We can talk about this in a minute. But when you only get leaks that are state-sponsored leaks, when you only get information that is state-sponsored information, that's 100% totalitarianism.
Yeah, well, and not to mention, like, just trying to raise awareness. That's always a good point to start. Like, just do sign wavings with a couple people, do banner drops with a couple people. Hey, if you're in Los Angeles, go to the SoFi Stadium and put up some fucking flyers around there. No, I'm not saying I'm gonna do that or anything, but yeah. And then I totally lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, like the billboard campaigns, like the fundraisers for the billboards that Daniel DeCeter is doing in one of the Carolinas, but I forget which one, but it's one of the
I think
Carolinas.
he's from North Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina. Or like Misty was doing one in Ohio for a while. Like, you can even start your own if you're up to that. So you can help with the billboard campaigns, help with the banner wavings, help with the protests, feed into that, raise general awareness. Like Steve said, raise awareness of the case among other local activist groups. So that way you have people that you can count on to pressure other people when it comes to it. Try to make it so that way you have this like massive public pressure campaign going, because that's what it's going to take in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to bring this back a little bit. Bernie, I don't want to be Ralph Nader. Sanders is only okay. 900 sounds right. For someone who didn't want to be Ralph Nader, wouldn't you say that this guy is even worse than that now at this point?
I don't know. Yeah. I haven't even been paying attention to him.
Look, man.
Me either. And that's
people are still in 2022 just now figuring out that Bernie Sanders cut a deal with the DNC in 92. It was 30 years ago. 30 years ago. 30 years ago he sold you out. And there's people who are just now finding out. There are people who got sold out before Bernie, or before they were even fucking born. And that's not my fault, you know. But I got yelled at for pointing it out back in 2016 the whole way forward. But I mean, I don't know, man. Pasta called me an asshole this morning. He said,
for what?
Said I went too hard. I was
Where?
maybe abrasive.
Where? On your show?
On the show, out of love.
Okay.
You do have your moments, Steve.
Was he like, don't make the audience feel like they're idiots, Steve?
No, dude, no.
I love your pasta impression.
I hung out with him all freaking weekend. His voice stuck in me.
I feel that. It's like the first time you meet Pasta, you're like, is he really the same way on camera, off camera? And it's like, yes. The answer is yes, 100%.
That shit does not turn off. There's no set. No, that's the setting.
Like the extra doesn't stop just because the stream ends. Like, no, it.
Yeah. He was really excited to meet all these figures that were at the. We went to a hotel where all the doctors met and all these. Not all these independent news personalities like Del Bigtree, or I don't know if I should call them independent. I don't know how independent they are. There's a lot of right-wing commentators and a lot of doctors were there. And Pasta's just like one person, another person, one other person, talking to them. And then at the end of it, he had like a whole collection of contact information from all these people.
Moses, man, that's his job.
Yeah.
His point. Grandma runs point.
Yeah, so he was really excited about all that, and I got to eat pasta with Pasta. That was the first thing that we ate when he landed. And
yeah. Me and Steve got you beat because we got to eat pasta made by Pasta.
I haven't experienced that yet. Hopefully, I can one day.
That vegan made me steak.
Yeah, he made a steak, that's right. Kitchen. And it was good, too.
And it was damn good.
So, I want to bring this up because this was brought to my attention. When was the first time I had you on, Steve? It was like May of 2020.
Was it?
something like that, May or June of 2020.
It
was
must-
earlier than that even. You might
I
be
think
right,
it
though.
was.
You might
I
be
think
right.
it was after Tulsi dropped out because I remember.
Well, maybe.
Because I remember he came around on the same time that it was my first time around, and I remember I went on for the first time after Tulsi dropped out. So
Okay. Yeah.
Tulsi dropped out around that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're the one that told me about this clip that I'm about to show here.
Oh yeah,
Correct.
Marcus ate food made by pasta too. Those were pretty good vegan burgers.
Snap!
Yeah.
You guys are lucky.
It wasn't ketchup, it was a sweet tomato sauce with garlic aioli and a grilled onion.
She's not kidding. She's not kidding.
Damn.
I'm not kidding because he repeated that like 500 times that weekend.
He just gave me leftovers. He didn't get to cook.
Margaret Villa brought some some Filipino food?
Yeah.
And it was bomb, and we ate on it for like 3 days.
Yeah, because it had like shrimp in it, and me and Steve were the only like non-vegan staying there, so it was like all to us. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, lucky.
Oh yeah.
So back then, when Steve brought the clip I'm about to show here to my attention, I was like, I can't believe that, because at the time, I was more in the dark. I had criticisms of Rising at the time. I have way more now. I mean, if people have been keeping up with me, I mean, that should be obvious. But I just wanted to bring this up again, because I do think that they owe Julian Assange a public apology. WikiLeaks shared this clip from Breaking Points. They've been talking about Julian Assange. Fine, bring awareness about that issue. That's great, but don't act like this never happened here.
Is this vintage Frank analysis we're about to watch?
Yes. So I said, never forget when Crystal Ball and E. Sagar laughed at Julian Assange's suffering. Breaking Points, you owe Julian an apology. So here we go. Crystal and Sagar have still not apologized for laughing at Julian Assange's suffering and the misinformation that they presented about what happened in the embassy, which was long debunked already by credible sources. Take a look at this.
And so we accidentally learned that Julian Assange has been indicted.
So not only that, we might have actually just complicated a very, very fractious diplomacy that's going on right now, because there is a lot of that behind-the-scenes negotiations going on between the U.S., the U.K., and Ecuador. Ecuador is completely sick of Julian Assange. They want them to get the heck out of there.
They want him out, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's to the point where...
He's been there for 6 years.
Not only is that, but Julian refuses to clean up his cat's litter box. He is like... like in court filings, they're having major lawsuits against each other because Julian refuses to clean his room. He's a grown man. He's like in his 40s, and the man will not clean his room and clean up after his cat. He also refuses to shower more than once a week.
What?
Yeah, it's disgusting. Like, so...
I'm glad you're on, because I didn't know any of those details.
Yeah,
and they're important.
Doesn't it make you want to put
Everybody-
Sagar in
But there's some
1.5
more.
rooms
So the
for
US
7.5
announced
years and see what he does?
Hang on. Say that again.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about
It's
that.
okay.
Yeah,
Doesn't it make you want to
echo
put
thing.
Sagar in a room, 1.5 rooms for 7.5 years and see what it does?
What?
Just as a thought experiment. If he's got, since he has these repetitions of debunked stories, like, I'd like to know how anybody would do in arbitrary detention, illegal in arbitrary detention for 7.5 years before you're trafficked out of it and thrown into the Guantanamo Bay of the United Kingdom. Addy Ads.
Hey,
Oh shit, what's up, Addy
Oh,
Ads?
baby boy.
What's up, brother? I got to meet him in person the other day.
Hey.
That was awesome.
Addy, me and Burmis were talking about you. I want you to know that.
You're just gonna leave it at that?
And we were both saying how fucking awesome it was that there's somebody like you out there doing what you're doing, because that doesn't happen enough. Is something that we hope inspires other guerrilla journalists for a brand new generation of that shit. And we were saying that we were proud as fuck that you're out there leading the way right now. So thank you.
For sure.
Thank
For
you.
sure.
Much love there, brother. Yeah.
Shout out to Addy Ads. So Doja said Crystal and Saga are the epitome of professionalism. Julian has more integrity and conviction in his pinky than they do in their corporate bodies.
Hell fucking yeah.
Doja 831, is that Santa Cruz?
Not sure. The
Area code? I mean, I know it's the Santa Cruz area code. I have it. I look at this. Why?
So you want to tell people about the experience you had also? Because that was either right before or a little after you met Crystal Ball in person in DC.
We did.
Which
That happened in
was
February of
2020.
So Action for Assange was in DC doing our first events there for the opening round of Julian Assange's extradition hearing. And we did a media day the second day. We were in front of the Washington Post, and then we went down to the building that housed The Hill and Politico, and I think another outlet or two. And Crystal Ball comes walking out, and Andrew sees this. And Andrew takes off running after Crystal Ball.
Yeah.
Shoots straight by her because he's so
Andrew.
focused on the fact that he needs to run that he's forgotten that she's wearing essentially the same coat that Pasta was last January at the Department of Justice. Essentially. It was a little bit longer, maybe a little bit more expensive, but that color blue. I'm not even kidding. I'm not. That's facts.
God.
And he shoots by her by like 30 feet and then turns around and huffles back up to her half out of breath. And, hey, we're here. We're doing Assange, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, yeah, I'm on my way to CNN right now. Here's my email address, blah, blah, blah. And Andrew comes running back and he's like, I got Crystal Ball's email address. Like, you did not get her phone number? Or like any way that you can actually nail her down to a commitment to cover this or show up? Did you get it on camera? Okay. Well, at least we can harass her about it the rest of the time that we're here, which we did. And I think she still deserves a little occasional harassment for that, because she totally did ghost a whole bunch of activists that were dead ass in front of her building with a giant the We Are All Assange picture display that we had printed out hundreds of individual photos and attached them to these poster attached them to a background that we could roll up and then hang on the inside of an easy up on both sides, I think, at that point. Elaborate, but hard to miss, I think, is the point. And
no mention of it. No mention of it on her show.
Not a word. No. We got more coverage from a Georgetown news, like a Georgetown University one-off newspaper or something like that, weekly newspaper.
So what do you say this makes of her character? And her as a journalist?
Because
I know this got you in trouble back in that time, in February 2020. So what would you think that makes of her now? And what do you see? Do you think more people are waking up to this?
Well,
what do you say?
Of course, I do. At the same time, like it's difficult to assess where most people are, because I still think that like what Crystal Ball does is relatively niche compared to the rest of the media market. I think what we do is super niche compared to the rest of the media market. So in terms of people who have watched former MSNBC anchor, failed Democratic Congress, candidate, Reid Hoffman's business partner's wife, with a show with the guy from the Federalist Society, if on a conservative magazine's news show, if people have had 7 years, 6 years to put that together and watch that, and have started to come around to the fact that maybe they're not perhaps serious journalists in pursuit of the truth, but rather shiny presentations for a new generation to shepherd them into one of two parties that don't give a fuck about them. I'm glad that they're there. I'm glad that they are. It stuns me that it's taken this long for a lot of people, but most people don't have a giant head start on the cynicism of government or lack of reason to inherently trust institutions.
So, Gloria, do you agree that in 2016, Trump derangement syndrome was something that helped people open their eyes to some of these independent commentators and journalists, to how serious they are, how good of a critical thinker they are? It was to see, okay, who's really about it and who really isn't about it, who has too many blinders on. In 2020, 2021, 2022, the new derangement syndrome is on the Roni Rona. And we see people like Crystal and Sagar and all these other people who, Marcus just reminded me, remember how Crystal was just talking smack about Dr. Robert Malone, saying that, oh, he's just picking out, he's cherry picking studies. And they're not doing that. How does can she prove that they're cherry picking studies?
Yeah,
because they're just repeating talking points that they hear in the mainstream. Sagar had to come out and do a segment on the Great Reset to cover her ass. I did not know about that, but they were also...
It probably sucked, though.
Yeah, I bet it did.
I haven't watched it at all, but it probably sucked.
They trivialized the Great Reset. They were just like, these conspiracy theories, like the Great Reset, New World Order. Shadowban does a better impression of her.
The Naomi Klein model, essentially, where they call it a conspiracy smoothie. But it's like... Yeah, essentially. And Sagar...
Oh, and then 10 months later, you cover it like you've always been covering it?
Yeah, Sagar is just like... he's like a more... I don't know, he just gives me like young conservative club vibes.
Well, that's what he came from. Like, he came from the same train of thought as Tucker Carlson.
But he never grew out of it.
Let me tell you about a girl I know. I had a drink about an hour ago. Every time I see Sagar, the date rape song comes on in my head. I do. I'm like, oh, that's a frat boy.
Yeah.
That's a trust fund kid.
He went.
I don't know. Like,
he went to a university. Like, the program he was in was funded by. Who was it funded by? It was funded by all these neocons. I did a whole segment on that, Minpress News, and then after that, like in grad school, same thing. After he graduated, he was in a think tank, also funded by these neocons.
Yeah,
go ahead,
Steve.
Steve.
His whole thing is just to make neocons cool to the kids again. He's like doing what Jack Posobiec does, where he tries to make neoconservatism appeal to a different audience. But like with Sagar, he's trying to make it appeal more towards, like, my guess is like a younger and like more like pseudo-populist demographic, whereas with Jack Posobiec, it's clear like which demographic he's going for to try to suck them into the whole neocon wheel.
Yeah.
If
that made any sense. Yeah.
Yeah. For a more demographically diverse brand of neoconservatism.
Mm-hmm.
And then Crystal Ball is there to suck in people from the left.
Yeah.
And with the first time that we saw that clip was back in like 2019, I think. And maybe very early 2020, but before we went to DC for the first time. And I remember, because I got in a spat with a handful of people. Oh boy, did I get in a spat with a handful of people over that. and I called Crystal Ball like a shiny distraction, and I questioned the motives of people that were swinging from her dick because she was blowing up, and they were just attaching themselves to her and praising the hell out of her without really listening to anything she said. And I found it to be incredibly insincere. And wow, was that not a popular take at the time?
I got a lot of hate too. Shout out to Jack Sitz for sending me information about Crystal Ball's funding for her, what was it, her PAC.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, her
She's
PAC.
been tied to all these people that were tied to promoting
Robbie
Russiagate and all
Yeager
that.
had that story too, really early on.
But yeah, it was not popular at the time to be calling that out. But I'm glad more people are waking up to this. Like I mentioned earlier, the Rona derangement syndrome is a new Trump derangement syndrome that is opening people's eyes to who is a good critical thinker and who is not. And I would say that you guys and the other people that we are close to, other journalists that we talk to, are great critical thinkers.
Yeah, well, I mean, Ryan, Christian Whitney, Derek Brose, Corey Morningstar, Johnny Vedmore. I think I already said Whitney Webb. Yeah, Jason Burmis. Just trying to give people names, so they
There's
know
a lot
to
to list.
Yeah, Vanessa Beeley, Eva Bartlett.
Corey
If you
Morningstar.
go to the Slow News Day channel on Rockfin, and you just kind of scroll through the interviews over the last 3+ years, you're going to find, honestly, and I'm just like, this is not me bragging on like us as the show, just the kind of like the wide lane that exists for people who want to have legitimate conversations with actual journalists. It doesn't happen as often as it should. And so the opportunity exists because these guys were coming on the show when it was nothing, and we've been able to develop some pretty close friendships over the years, which is an enormous fucking gift, man. It really is. But there's people that are out there that are doing fantastic work. Dude, look at what Mark Crispin Miller puts out. Look at what Catherine Austin Fitz puts out. Like, there's some incredible people. Ian Davis, we just had him on the show.
Oh yeah, he had a little Cockney accent and everything. It was awesome.
Yeah, he's killer. The work that Pierce Robinson does with the Organization of Propaganda Studies.
Hey. That's
Doctor.
There you go. There you go.
I apologize, Ms. Jones.
So yeah, like Marcus mentioned, look into Crystal Ball's husband. Look at who he's invested in. He's invested in all these.
Motherfucker, Reed LinkedIn Hoffman. I mean,
That guy. Yes, that guy.
He's in bed with all these like all these pro-Israelis. He's profiting off of the online school system, which is going to become more of a thing as the fourth industrial revolution ramps up.
Yeah.
Which he's going to profit off of that.
Which already has proven to be a massive data mining operation to begin with. When over half a decade ago, the EFF, Electronic Frontier Foundation, they lodged a complaint against the Google classrooms, which are being used now for mining children's data. And then it's only going to be even worse once you incorporate the blockchain into it. So now they don't even necessarily need to mine for people's data. They just have all the information out there.
They host it. By the way, Google is developing blockchain infrastructure. We've done this story. I don't know. Did we do it Sunday? I can't remember if we did it Sunday or
can't remember.
But not only is Google hosting its own blockchain, Walmart is creating its own spot in the metaverse. Like this is when I was joking about the Soylent Chicken Cube, that's a real thing. It's a real thing. And it's supposed to give you fuel for some hours. And you're supposed to be able to But that's essentially what it is, like a cube of chicken product that you eat to fuel your existence while you go off and live in the metaverse.
So, what do you guys say to people who are like, "Oh, you guys are some shills for Ethereum and Bitcoin because you're on Rockfin. You're a shill because you are investing in some crypto." What do you guys say
Go
to
fuck
people
yourself.
Like that? Why is that?
I mean, really, because you don't listen to the show, because you don't look at what we put out on social media. You've never heard us talk about it.
Yeah.
So go fuck yourself until you take in the content and you see what we have to say about it. If that's your standing position, I'm going to assume that you're an incredibly unserious person and you have no fucking business having our name in your mouth. Go fuck yourself.
We're not actually advocating to go buy Ethereum and a shit ton of Bitcoin and Cardano. We're not really advocating for any of that. We've spoken several times against it on Rockfin, on Odyssey. So
it's like saying you're for wage slavery because you are talking about how people can get a job at I don't know at a make fast food restaurant or something.
Yeah, Franco, you know what? Everyone that has a YouTube channel is pro DARPA. Okay, y'all need to stop being shills.
Yeah, what do you say about that?
I'm only gonna do my show on the DARPA platform. I'm only gonna do my show on the platform that is literally a subsidiary of Alphabet Inc. That's the stand I'm taking. Only national security state affiliated platforms. Nothing that's trying to break free of that.
Yeah.
No. And honestly, dude, I think crypto's a doorway that can lead to some sort of decentralized financial system somewhere down the road. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know how it works. I don't. I know it's not creating a brand new asset class. I know it's not creating a brand new fucking pyramid scheme. I know that's not it. But that's what we're presented with. So if you understand that you're gambling, you understand that there's high risk, high reward, and you can turn that into something tangible, property, vehicle, dog food, what the fuck ever. Do that, but understand that you've got a short window before this is completely fucking captured and they're taxing your ass on your unrealized holdings, that you had the money you haven't made yet. That's what Janet Yellen's trying to do. While everybody's out here fucking having a political, keep the fucking red tea, blue tea, progressive establishment, all that bullshit, people are actually getting fucked. Mm-hmm. And the sooner that the conversation moves out of the government that we're allowed to see and into the government that we're not allowed to see, or that people rarely see, the better.
I just want to take a moment and say, haters, keep giving us here life energy. Oh, we love it. Yes, keep giving it to us. Haterade. But I did want to bring this up and get your thoughts on this.
Oh, breaking news. Sky Daddy's back on Twitter.
Yeah, she's back. And she put this up related to what we were just discussing. I don't like crypto because I'm some sort of weird corporation stan wearing #XRP merch. I'm invested in crypto because I see the writing on the wall and the dollar is done. Crypto is not the resistance, it's the agenda. Although I don't know if the dollar is going to be done. I don't know if that's going to be converted in some way into some kind of blockchain. But she said, I'm not claiming I have all the answers, but I know, okay, that's something else. But
I think that's
what are your thoughts?
I mean, I definitely think that crypto is a part of the agenda, especially when you consider the whole central bank-backed digital currencies thing. How long the dollar is going to stay for, I don't know. I know it's declining, and I know inflation is kind of fucking it in the ass right now. But I think there's still, a bit of an old school of thought that wants to maintain that, fiat paper dollar. the grand old U.S. dollar, the one that they killed Gaddafi over to begin with. So I definitely think they're not moving completely over to digital currencies yet. But yes, it is very much in the agenda with regards to kind of the global governance or the new global governance. So, yeah.
Steve, what are your thoughts on that?
Can he hear?
I can hear.
Okay. I thought you had your headphones for some reason.
Oh,
Yeah.
can we repeat the first part of the question?
Yeah, so just related to what we were talking about, Daddy's back said, I don't like crypto because I'm some sort of weird corporation stan wearing hashtag XRP merch. I'm invested in crypto because I see the writing on the wall and the dollar is done. Crypto is not the resistance, it's the agenda. Although I do want to add this nuance. If you don't say it in the way that I say it, then you're a shill or you don't get it or something. As a matter of fact, that's something else. He said something about the dollar. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Steve?
Well, I mean that I share my soulmate's thoughts.
That's all right. I forgot about that.
I share my soulmate's thoughts. I actually we talked on the phone for about like an hour and a half this morning before the morning show. It was really good to catch up with her, and look forward to hanging out a lot more. But no, she's right. Look, even more. 92% of the stock market is owned by 1% of the asset class. 98% of the crypto market, 96% of the crypto market is owned by 0.1% of an asset class. Okay? It's even more of a concentrated pyramid scheme than the fucking stock market. And it's still an asset class. It's still an asset. Sorry. It's not currency. That doesn't mean that there is a promise in Litecoin. That doesn't mean that the original concept of peer-to-peer transaction that Satoshi had with Bitcoin isn't a possibility. But that's not the working model that we have right now. And if you want Bitcoin to become the reserve currency, you're going to have to take it the fuck out of the hands of centralized controllers.
Yes.
And that's the agenda that Sky's talking about.
Yeah, the same people are still in power, and they're going to co-opt it, just like they've co-opted everything.
Yeah,
I'm gonna make the point that I always make with
co-opted a lot of it.
cryptocurrency, and this is something I want everybody to be fully fucking aware of. The last thing that I want on an immutable public ledger for anyone who knows how to see it is my personal private financial transactions. No, I don't. I don't like playing like that. I really don't.
Yeah, you can't
come from a gray black market background.
Yeah, there's no privacy when it comes to especially Bitcoin transactions. It's more so radical transparency, if anything.
Surveillance coin.
Yeah. So, yeah. But I mean, okay, so I have a really, really terrible analogy for how I view crypto. It's like really bad. So basically, I view crypto in the same way that I view tourist traps, in which I would rather that all of tourism be gone. So like I would rather have the entire monetary system, the entire like global economic system be gone completely. But if people are going to use it as a means to secure a bag in their own unconventional way, then okay. I ain't gonna hate you for it. So
And if there's any
terrible analogy, I know, but that's the way that I think of it. So
yo, dude, I mean, pirate.
And if there's any nuances,
no problem with you going out and getting some money, dude. I have no problem with anybody going out and making a living. I have no problem with anybody taking risks and being rewarded for taking their risks. Go do that shit, but understand what you're doing and understand what you're playing with. That way, when you get fucked, you can go, oh, that's right.
And if there's any nuances we missed about cryptocurrency and blockchain, let us know, Jack Sith. I see you in the chat. But it's so far he said, exactly, Steve, exactly, Glory. So that's a good sign.
Good.
I want to shift over here a little bit to the Roni Rona. Before we get too deep into it, we're just going to talk some stuff that won't get us in trouble too much here on YouTube. I want
What's it like being on YouTube? It's been 2 weeks. We just get the
Oh,
channel
man.
back tomorrow at some point.
Oh,
I don't
guys,
think I
our
get to do that
crypto
show.
guru says that they were spot on. Fuck yeah.
Great.
You know
Great.
why?
Awesome, Jack.
You know why?
Awesome.
Because Scoop Gang don't fuck around, son.
So I want to give a shout out here to a Canadian fellow audience member of this show and contributor Propaganda sent this to me, and I do want to share this out to everybody and let them know about how
I saw
Canadians
it.
are resisting against the mandates and they're protesting here.
The trucker caravan's been in the queue for days.
Yeah.
I've run out of time, but we're covering it tomorrow before Scott Horton's on. By the way, Scott Horton's on the show tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. on the West Coast, 11:30 a.m. on the East Coast. Pasta and I have some questions for him, and you should be there for that.
Go truckers. Woo!
Awesome.
This is fantastic. It is longest caravan in history, set to be largest protest in history, with up to 14 million people responding to show up in Ottawa.
Yeah. And even though Canada has better healthcare than us, it doesn't mean that they don't have still people in charge that are trying to control their citizens.
Yeah, Canada still fucking sucks because those fucks make it impossible to visit your old grandparents unless if you do like 50,000 things. So, fuck Canada.
Blame Canada, like in South Park.
With their beady little eyes and flopping heads so full of lies. Blame
God.
Canada. Blame Canada.
And Eva Bartlett's been going in on Canada too. So
They're not
And,
the only country.
Cory Morningstar too.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, if we meet Prop, are we gonna see the bobbing head? So let's move on over to Rockfin only now, so we can talk a little bit more about what me, Pasta, and Fiorella saw in DC this weekend with those mandate protests. I want to get your thoughts on some of the speeches, some of the backlash. So for the YouTubers out there, hop on over to Rockfin, please. I don't know what you're doing if you still haven't made an account with Rockfin yet, but we'll see you there. Later, YouTube.
Bye. YouTube. We're still on Rockfin.